So let's talk about New York for a second and your possible return. Do you think your return to politics could impact the dynamics of the political landscape there at all?
Well, yes. I mean, look, I served, as you said, it's in the city council when I was a kid. It's
Mhm.
now a long time has passed. I'm 60 years old now. I'm a different person, but the city council has become a less and less, and you have a national audience, but I'll say this, the city council has become a less and less serious place. It's a much more performative place than it was when I used to serve there. It's less part of problem solving and more part of what a lot of politics is in all levels of government, people functioning purely for the clicks and the likes and not
Right.
in much about solving problems. So I think that if I'm fortunate enough to get elected as someone who is running in this way that I'm doing it, meaning enormous headwinds against me, but I run on an issue based campaign based on ideas. AnthonyWeiner.com is where people can read them. I I don't flinch in the face of the normal things that would get people not to run. It
Mhm.
might encourage other people who don't have my baggage, who don't have my problems, to say, you know what, if Wiener's able to do it, I can also run a common sense campaign around just improving the conditions in New York City. So I think it could be. And another thing I mean, at the risk of being pompous, I'll be the tallest pygmy in the city council. I mean, I will be a nationally known figure who has been in Congress, who has done this a lot. If I can provide some level of experience and expertise and adult attitude in the city council, then I think I'll be of service. I'll be one of 51. I don't expect milk and honey to flow in the streets just because I'm in the city council.
Right.
But again, the way political tides turn is someone runs and says something different than everyone else is saying. They get embraced, and suddenly politicians are like, okay, that's the thing to say now.
Right.
Perhaps that'll be the effect.
Do you think New Yorkers are at the point of being forgiving yet? Meaning for you, but also like Andrew Cuomo. Do you think we'll see him come back to New York in any way?
I don't know. I mean, I've pursued things very differently than some other people who have these things. I'm not blaming the world. I accept responsibility. I served my time. I'm in recovery. I own the things that I did.
Mhm.
Andrew is doing it very differently. And,
Yeah.
again, he's got to make his own decisions. It's very hard, Rachel, for me to answer. Do you think people are ... I don't know. Part of the beauty of politics, particularly at a local level, is you've got to confront them person to person. And what I find is the closer proximity I have to individual voters to make my case. And
Mhm.
one of the reasons I was eager to talk to you is you have a big following,
Mhm.
is to let people, at least if they're going to judge me, do it based on as much information as possible as I can give them, as much context as I can offer to the picture.
Yeah.
Other elected people, other people running have to decide what they're going to do. I mean, Donald Trump is like, I didn't do anything. This is all a hoax. Okay, that's one approach, and maybe people buy it. Andrew Cuomo is doing a similar kind of vibe. I prefer not to be lumped in with anyone because, to be honest with you, no case is like mine, right?
Right.
Mine is like completely weird in all of its different ways. And as I've pointed out, people sometimes don't even know the story. It's not even that recently. So last thing I'm going to do is tell anyone else that they don't have a right to try to return if I'm doing it. If I was giving Andrew Cuomo advice, if he came to me and asked me, and I've said this on the radio, I would say approach this very differently. Own the things that you think you are responsible for. We have a saying in recovery: make sure your side of the street is clean, and let everyone else, it's not a political phrase, it's a recovery phrase, but they say what other people think of me is none of my business. In politics it kind of is, right? You are saying it's your business, but there's only so much you can do to change what people think. All you can do is live your best version of yourself, try to
Mhm.
be as authentic as you can, try to be as honest as you can, and let the chips fall where they may.
I'm curious now that you're talking about advice, what would you say to Rudy Giuliani?
I think he's a lost cause, Rachel. I don't think he's well. I don't I don't know. It's just, and he was a colleague of mine, and I've been reluctant to comment very much publicly about it because I mean, he doesn't seem to be functioning in a rational kind of way. It just seems to be, and it's a little bit sad in that regard.
It is sad.
But
Very.
let me just leave it at that.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right, let's talk about a little bit more about what's going on with New York. What are the implications of the federal investigation into Mayor Eric Adams with this uncovered additional stuff going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, as someone who has, when federal prosecutors want to get you, they're going to get you.
Yeah.
Now, Adams has a bully pulpit and a microphone that most people don't have, and he's going to be able to have his public, push and pull, and he's apparently playing a game of footsie with someone who can give out pardons. I can tell you it's very, very difficult when indicted is in front of your name, when you've got people resigning around you, investigations and phones being seized, and that it just leaves. I mean, Rachel, you probably appreciate this, but most Americans, most New Yorkers, it's not like a third of their brain is focused on politics. Like a small portion of it is they look up from their lives every once in a while and they draw a conclusion about what's going on. Sometimes the conclusion is, all right, that guy gets it. He understands my problems. I'm going to vote for that guy. He seems to be my cup of tea. Sometimes it's, what the hell are they doing? And sometimes it's, oh, that's the guy with a lot of corruption. It's very hard when that third thing is lingering over you like a cloud. It's very hard to get voters to overlook it. He doesn't have a lot of time. He, like me, in June is going to be a primary. So it's going to be very difficult. I think there are a lot of things that Eric Adams has done and tried to do that are admirable. The mistakes that he has made. I ran for mayor a couple of times. I have tried to offer Eric advice. Would I be stunned if he got reelected? No, but I would be surprised at this point.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about Trump and his comments recently. His suggestions that he might use military force to acquire territories like the Panama Canal, Greenland, his comments about Canada. What are your thoughts on all that?
Donald Trump is an unserious man saying unserious things. I'm kind of over it. I mean, he's not even taken office. I'm already kind of over it. We're not acquiring Greenland. We're not acquiring Canada. We're not taking over the Panama Canal. If you told me there was a method to the madness, that this is some kind of a weird distraction from something else or staying in the news media, I don't think so. I think he's just an old man who basically says stuff and rambles a lot. I think to devote too much energy to trying to understand what he means is to give it a little bit too much credit.
All right. Well, then I'll ask you what are your predictions for when he takes office? What do you think is serious versus unserious?
Well, I do in addition to my radio show, I do a podcast called The Middle Unplugged. And I talked the last couple of weeks kind of like, what is it going to look like? And I did an episode a couple of weeks ago. Is 2017 what we should look at for 2025? Because it was a very similar dynamic that Donald Trump didn't know much about governing, didn't have a real serious sense about how you get stuff done. And as a result, didn't really get anything done. He got the tax cut done, and that was kind of it. His big reforms on immigration never happened, et cetera. And will it be different this time? I think in a lot of ways, Rachel, it won't. The Republicans don't, in this version of them in 2025, there's not stuff they're for. There's just stuff that they're against. And so it becomes very hard to negotiate with people or to get a governing coalition around people who don't even believe you should keep the government open, don't believe you should raise the debt limit. So will he get his tax bill? Maybe. He's got to renew his tax. Maybe, but the Republicans could barely elect a speaker. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. So I predict not a lot will happen that has to happen legislatively. Now, will Donald Trump be able to do a lot of stuff with his executive powers? Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff we'll be able to do. But the big stuff he's talking about, I'll be surprised. I mean, if you want to reform the immigration laws, you've got a partner in me and a lot of Democrats, but it's been Republicans who haven't wanted to do it for years because they don't want to, they don't think you're going to get accused of being for amnesty. Right. So it's going to be very hard. Politics And campaigns, you can say stuff.
Yeah.
You can say popular stuff. I think Mario Cuomo once said, you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. Well, now they've got to govern, and the Republicans have shown no sign of being good at governing. And when Donald Trump got elected in 2016, the Republicans lost state house seats in 2017. In 2018, historic wins for the Democrats in Congress. 2020, he lost the presidency. 2022, the big red wave turned out to be nobody. The Republicans they barely held on. And so let's find out what happens once they try to govern again. I don't anticipate they'll be very successful at it.